I raced a 9-hour adventure race with no GPS, just a map, a compass, and the very real chance of getting lost. The bike trap was hilarious. We just laid our bikes out in the grass. 2 hours before the race, we got our maps and planned our route. The goal was to get as many of the 30 checkpoints as possible, but you get to decide what order you get them in. I'm terrible at navigating, even to places I've been before if I don't have a GPS, so I was in for a day. We packed up our gear, I got my mandarins locked and loaded, put on sunscreen, ripped a kiwi, and turned my phone all the way off and stuffed it in my bag just in case of an emergency. Then I started my GPS watch and buried it deep into my bag because I wanted to track the total distance for the day. When the race started, everyone ran in different directions. There were 5 checkpoints in what they called the prologue, which you had to get before actually starting the race. After we got those, we started the main checkpoints and quickly realized that orienteering and actually spotting the checkpoints was a lot harder than we expected. We also realized our shoes would get soaked, but we did cross rivers on logs whenever we could. You collect the checkpoints by using a tracker and you scan into each one. We got lost more times than I want to admit in that first trekking section, but eventually we found a bridge that helped us figure out where we were on the map. So I ripped a celebratory mandarin. I got so many burrs stuck to me during that first section and kept getting cut up by the thorny bushes, but eventually we made it to the first transition and jumped on the mountain bikes. We picked up some more checkpoints and then reached the canoe section. Unfortunately, we were too late to canoe. They closed at noon and we showed up 10 minutes after that. We definitely should have saved some of the initial checkpoints for the end, but we took the L and kept going. We refilled our water bags, I reapplied sunscreen, grabbed some snacks, and got back on the mountain bike. The next part might have been my favorite. This was only my 3rd time mountain biking and it was genuinely a blast. And it was a lot easier to find the mountain biking checkpoints than the trekking checkpoints. Then we made it to the rappelling stage and I put on my rappelling gear and headed up to the top. It was a pretty solid cliff face that we got to rappel down. I got a checkpoint at the top and then rappelled not so gracefully down the cliff and grabbed another checkpoint at the bottom. Then we took off and tried to make up for some of our earlier mistakes. We hit a streak where we found a couple checkpoints in a row, so I ripped another celebratory mandarin, but we were still getting torn up by the thorns and burrs again. We also ran into the guy who ended up winning the race and he said it was bold to wear shorts. The next time I do this, I'm definitely wearing long pants and maybe I'll rock the shin guards like he had to. Then we ran to the other side of the park for a checkpoint in a cave. I don't normally feel claustrophobic, but the cave got kind of scary towards the back where you couldn't stand up. But we got the checkpoint in there, and then we rinsed off in a little stream near the cave. The cold water in my face felt great, but at that point we were so cooked it barely mattered. For a long time I was scared to try new things because I knew I wouldn't be good. I was scared to start lifting because I was so skinny. I was scared to start posting YouTube videos because I knew they'd be bad and cringy and that people would probably make fun of me. But I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't been willing to be bad at a lot of stuff. I had to accept that I'd fail, look silly, and mess up a bunch of times because that's the only way you can actually grow and prove anything to yourself. Today I jumped in because my friend wanted to try it, and yeah, we kinda sucked. We got lost way more than we should have, but we tried something hard. Remember, if it's your first time, you're supposed to be bad.